Miriam, and I'm joined by the Minister for Public Expenditure, Michael McGrath. Minister, we've heard all over the news today about new recommendations that NPHET has made to government, and government will be deciding on whether they come in on Tuesday. So over the weekend, should people live by NPHET's recommendations or by government's recommendations?
Well, the current guidance and rules apply until new decisions are made by government. So today the Cabinet COVID Committee did meet. We met to discuss in detail the draft plan, because it's still in draft form, for essentially living with this virus, managing it as best we can, but also in a way that allows society to function in as normal a way as possible, and that allows our economy to breathe and give businesses the best possible prospect of surviving and coming through this period. So on Tuesday next, the whole of government, the Cabinet will meet, will discuss the draft plan and hopefully make decisions.
So we heard all week from NPHET about the urgency of the situation and the considerable concern that they had about it at the briefings, and yet the recommendations won't be decided on until Tuesday.
So NPHET only had their meeting today, so the normal procedure then is that they formalise their advice to government in a letter to the Minister for Health. So that letter will be sent, presumably imminently. It will be considered by government, and final decisions are a matter for government to make.
People can socialise under the old rules, can they?
Well, look, I think, the vast majority of people exercise common sense, and at one point they do want to...
The rules are there for a reason, or the restrictions are there for a reason.
Yeah, and look, by and large, they are in the form of guidance. We're not going to win this battle with the heavy hand of the law. It's going to be by winning the argument and by persuading people, which I think has been done by and large successfully, that this is within our own control. It is about doing the simple things right. It's about keeping our distance. It's about wearing the mask where it's appropriate, hand hygiene, cough, etiquette, and so on. Okay. And so I think we all just need to constantly remind ourselves that we have a very direct say in whether or not this virus grows in strength and spreads, or whether we can get on top of it. So is your message tonight that people should go out and live their lives, or that this is a dangerous virus and they should stay in as much as possible? You're the man with the hands on the purse string. Should they be out there spending money? Of course people should be spending money, but people should behave responsibly when it comes to the issues that we know can lead to the transmission of the virus. We have learned so much in the last number of months about how this virus gets transmitted, and it is directly within our own gift as such. We can influence whether or not this virus takes a stronger hold in Ireland, or whether we can live as normally as possible. And also, as Dermot O'Leary said there in the VT a moment ago, that we at least give businesses the opportunity to trade and give them the prospect of coming through this. I mean, from an economic perspective, the damage has been hugely significant. At its peak,
how much is it going to cost us?
Well, at its peak, 600,000 people lost their job because of the virus. Now, thankfully, almost 2/3 of them have returned to work at this stage, and we want to help the remaining people who tragically lost their job.
You must have estimates at this point in time about the scale of the impact economically that's going to hit us with.
Yeah, sure we do. We will be spending this year about €16 billion more than we had anticipated at the beginning of the year, or the previous government set out in normal times what the expenditure plans would be. And so we have a budget now to frame in the next number of weeks, Minister Donoghue and I, and we have to work out exactly what level of support the economy needs.
And how long can we wait? How long can we wait until watching hospitalisations on a relatively flat plane, deaths at a relatively flat plane? How long are you prepared to wait to see if it goes up, about a worry, rather than about something that is concrete as yet?
Well, of course the rising figures are a concern. I mean, the hospital numbers have remained relatively low. I think it's 48.
The hospitalisations are pretty much, they're slightly on and up, but we're destroying the economy.
Yeah, there are 48 people at the moment in hospital, and that's not to convey any sense of complacency, because we cannot be complacent, and we know the trajectory that this will go if the virus numbers continue to rise.
So what do you say to the business people whose businesses are being destroyed and they're still seeing very, very low death numbers at this point in time?
Well, I think that really is what underlines the need for a new plan, a plan that sets out a roadmap for us as a country to manage the process of living with this virus for the next 6 months and beyond. And we all sincerely hope that there will be an effective treatment or a vaccine in that period, but we can't assume that. We have to plan for the reality that the virus is likely to be with us right through that period. And I think people want as much certainty and as much clarity as to what decisions government will make in different scenarios, and And so, in essence, that's what the plan will seek to do. It will set out what are the factors that will lead to a decision to move from one level to the other, and exactly what are the consequences of that. So I think it will bring a far greater degree of certainty to the management of this virus, and it will provide certainty to businesses and workers as well.
On the economics of it, a lot of people say that the cost of borrowing is extremely low at the moment on the international markets. Do you plan to access that and use that?
Well, we're doing that, and we need to do that.
Scale?
Well, I mean, this year we are looking at a deficit of between 25 and 30 billion euro. Pre-COVID, it was expected we'd have a surplus this year. So that's the scale of the turnaround. And, we are in that fortunate position with the support of the European Central Bank at Eurozone level that they are underpinning cheap borrowing costs.
And do you believe that
won't last forever?
OK, so you don't believe that will continue indefinitely?
Of course it won't last forever. But that's why we need to make the right decisions. And the best way, ultimately, to close the deficit is to bring about economic recovery, to bring about economic growth. And from the perspective of this government, it will be an investment-led recovery. Next year, for example, we're going to increase our investment in capital projects around the country to up over 9 billion euro. So we're not going to cut away through this. We're going to invest, support businesses, support incomes, and try to maximise the capacity of businesses to function while living with the reality that this virus continues to be in circulation. A lot of this comes down to common sense.
So the low-cost solutions, I suppose, to this are the stuff that you talked about: hand washing, cough etiquette, and keeping your distance. They're essentially economically free. Is your thinking that we can open up the economy to a massive scale, to a full scale, while employing those solutions to a stronger degree, or how do you see it?
Well, the economy has substantially opened up, and
it's not
that's
fully
why.
Opened up.
Well, largely it has, and the decision has been made about the wet
Say
pubs.
That to Pat Byrne.
I mean, aviation has been devastated, and we acknowledge that, and that is why we are examining the issue of aviation, and we are determined to set out a clear pathway for the return of international travel in a safe and a responsible manner. We are a very small, open economy that is highly dependent on international trade and on the ability of people to move throughout the world. That needs to be done safely, and we are going to make decisions next Tuesday on that. One option that we are very closely examining is whether we can fully participate in the new European Commission proposal that there would be a coordinated approach across 27 member states. To me, that makes an awful lot of sense. Final decision will be made on Tuesday.
That means that there might be some travel to Britain, and we're going to go there. Miriam's going to talk about Brexit. Miriam. And Minister Michael McGrath is still here with me. Minister McGrath, that's what you're up against. That's the modern Tory party, isn't it?
Yeah, and this isn't a game. This is deadly serious. The economic implications of this going wrong are profound, not just for Ireland but for the UK as well. But even more importantly than that, the withdrawal agreement and the Northern Ireland Protocol, which the UK government now seem to be prepared to ditch, is essentially about protecting the Good Friday Agreement and protecting peace on this island. And we are not going to entertain any renegotiation of that agreement. It is fundamental to this country's national interest that that be protected, and so we need to respond in a firm but in a calm and measured way. We need to support the efforts of Michel Barnier and the EU task force. There will be twists and turns in this process yet, but it's very evident from watching the news that the unilateral decision of the UK government to seek to break that internationally binding agreement has not gone down well in large parts of their own jurisdiction, not to mention the EU and in countries like the United States of America.
Do you think they're the type of people who will listen to the EC statement today demanding that they remove that law that they've brought in, which they admit themselves breaches the withdrawal agreement?
I think they need to reflect on the response that they have heard to date.
Is Boris Johnson's government a reflective government?
Well, time will tell, but the reality is it is in the interest of everyone here that a deal is done. And the importance of that Northern Ireland Protocol, which means essentially that Northern Ireland would remain within the UK customs territory. They would apply the EU customs code for goods coming into Northern Ireland, which then allows free trade between Northern Ireland and the Republic. No customs, no tariffs, and parts of the single market rules would apply by Northern Ireland as well. We can't return to a hard border on the island of Ireland. We're not going there. So we are going to stand firm on this.
But a hard border looks seems more likely than ever, I suppose, at this point in time. If we do end up with a hard border, what does it say about our strategy along the way? Did we go too hard against the Theresa May government, for instance?
Look, there have been many turns in the road since this all started back in 2016, and I suspect there will be many more. It could well be the case that what we saw this week is a negotiating tactic. It could well be an element of brinkmanship. But from the perspective of the Irish Government, we're very clear on what we need to achieve. We need to stand firm behind the withdrawal agreement. It is intrinsic to our national interest that we do so, but it is also in the economic interest of both the UK, Ireland and the European Union that we get a deal, and I'm sure in the end common sense will prevail.
OK, Minister Michael McGrath, thanks for coming in. Miriam.